Welcome, everybody. It's time once again for the next chapter with Charlie Hedges as he explores turning the page on his life and yours. Hey, Charlie.
Hi, Paul. My guest today, Elizabeth Hamilton-Guarino, is the founder of the Best Ever You Network. What a business name, the Best Ever You Network. I love it. She tells us in the interview just how she founded her company in 2008 and began podcasts in 2010. I kind of view Elizabeth as a bit of a pioneer in the field of understanding how self-improvement methodologies can result in genuinely changed lives. Elizabeth is determined to produce actual results that make a real difference in the lives of the thousands of people she regularly influences. Elizabeth will challenge the way you think about living your life intentionally. Elizabeth offers podcasts, YouTube videos, and seminars that you can find both live and online at her website, thebesteveryou.com. I can't wait to chat with her about her unique and inviting thoughts, and with that, let's bring her on the show. Elizabeth Hamilton-Guarino, welcome to the next chapter with Charlie.
Thank you so much for having me. It's going to be a fun chat with you. We'll talk just about everything. I love what you just said. Challenge the way you think about things. I mean, I love that. Who doesn't want to do that? Challenge the way you are.
I know,
improve.
And that is sort of as I've read up on you, that sort of seems part of your intention is to restructure the way you think.
Yeah, or reconnect you to a place you were before, where you want to get back to that you've maybe drifted from. There's all sorts of ways there, but generally when people come through my path, they really want to change something. They might not quite know what it is, and off we go.
Just know something's not working, and I need to find something that does work. Can you help me get there? Yeah,
or the other thing would be, I'm at this level. I'm like at a world-class level. How do I sustain this? That's another place where I exist, because that is very tricky to sustain a level of world-class success, or doing something that's super visible. Athletes, executives, that type of being is difficult to be day in and day out.
Oh my goodness! Tell me, I was going to bring up our personal connection, and I have a personal connection there with my son, who plays professional baseball. So he lives at that elite level, and always striving to get better, and also just to maintain the battle in there. So I was thinking, first of all, that you and I found we have our my typical discussion before I work with a guest, and that we found a kindred spirit in a discipline apart from personal development, and that is we are both baseball parents. How about that?
Yeah, I absolutely love it. When I heard that about your son, I went to Googling, and of course, all the guys in my house know who that is automatically. So they're like, oh my God, that kind of thing. And Cam was all excited. But yeah, we are a baseball family of 4 left-handers. One in college, a left-handed pitcher who plays for New Haven, and just couldn't be more proud. And even at that level, it's hard to do. I mean, the percentage just declines and declines and declines of who actually gets to play in college baseball.
Oh, that was
high school baseball.
Elizabeth, that was our goal. For Austin, raising Austin, we really didn't think about MLB, think about professional baseball. We just thought, can he play in college? And that's a huge goal. There's so few players that ever make it to that level. It is so competitive. When you have 5 million kids in Little League, And of the 5 million kids in Little League, 500,000 will play in high school. Of that 500,000, only 50,000 will play at some level in college, whether it's junior college or 4-year college. And so, it just keeps reducing every level you go up, and that the competition gets so intense. And so your son must be an excellent pitcher to be pitching in college.
Well, as a parent, yes, he's excellent. He's perfect, isn't he? But they all are at that level, and it pains me when I hear things like people saying, "Oh, I'm terrible at this," or we suck at this, or I'm like, "Oh my goodness gracious! Do you know how many people would trade your spot for even a second?" and you hear them sometimes. People at these elite levels, they even struggle with their level of success.
Oh, all the time at
all the time.
The most elite levels, and you go up to the very top of MMA, football. That look at I think of one. I don't want to get too sidetracked on this, but look at Conor McGregor.
I know, we're having fun though.
Conor McGregor, is just like everybody thought he was unbeatable. He was like the god of the. It's not MMA. It's what is it, Paul? MMA.
MMA. Yes, MMA.
And he was the top of the heap, and now he can't win a match.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so difficult. Well, we could talk baseball and sports. You and I, we already did this. We already had half our conversation before on baseball. So what I want to talk about is I really want to talk about your wonderful business, the Best Ever You Network. So my first question, Elizabeth, is you have a very fascinating backstory on how you founded this organization, and I am really interested in hearing about that story, about that 2008 story of you going from a VP in finance to developing a personal development organization.
Yeah, I'm that person who, as a lot of us are right now, who they go to work, they went to work, they are at work or whatever, and in the back of their mind they're like, "Oh man, I hate this. There's got to be something else to do. What do I love to do? What can I do?" All those things that just make you not want to schlep to work every day, to that office or that commute or whatever. And that was me. And it was interesting though, because I quit a really cool financial services job that I had from like my 20s to my 30s, with my first 2 kids. I was doing the nanny thing and flying around and all this stuff. Anyway, I got to the point where I just was like, this is too much. I'm going to stay home with the kids. And I stayed home with the kids. They're 4 boys. They're each 2 years apart. So right now they're 20, 22, 24, and 26. But back that up, and they were little running around here. And when the littlest one got into 1st grade, I thought, oh, cool. I am going to get suited back up, and out the door I go, and I'm going to get a job and all this stuff, because we're never happy with what we have, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I thought the grass was greener. Out I went, and after about 8 months of that job, I was literally in the middle of a boxing ring. There were 4 boys fighting. For real, I'm not kidding. 4 grown men fighting. And I'm like, wow,
in your new job.
In my new job, and my kids don't fight. So this was kind of foreign to me. I'm like, wow, you guys do not get along. So I closed my door one day, and I thought, I started writing. I'm like, there's just got to be something better than this, that kind of thing. And I wrote, Best Ever Me, Best Ever You. Wait a minute, Best Ever You. I am going to help people, in this spot. We're going to address this head on. And I quit. I flat out quit. I didn't care how much money I was making, what I was doing. I just said, you guys, I'm done. I just kind of came home and said I just quit my job. Everybody was kind of like, did we hear you right? And I'm like, yeah, I quit my job. And I marched up the street, a little bit determined, and to a friend who was a graphic designer and website producer. And, this is 2008. So she helped me register the domain Best Ever You. off it went. And everybody, I mean, really everybody was like, what are you doing? I was not very popular. My mom called and, like, absolutely, what are you doing? You have no idea what you're doing. Stop, go back to work. All the comments, all the naysayers. My own mom, who's great, by the way. But should I keep going? Or
yeah, that is because other people have a paradigm, and they have sort of the American paradigm of you work and you just achieve and you keep advancing, you have greater jobs, you have more money. Is it, as we will talk about later, is it aligned with the way you're created? Is it aligned with your DNA? Does it spark a sense of inspiration in you? And dealing with four children in an adult atmosphere does not spark inspiration, but only frustration.
No, it didn't. But the kicker here is one of the calls I got, and I must have hit a nerve with somebody outside my family circle and all these things, and it was a call of, I want this domain, give it to me. I'm like, no, no. Who are you? And he's like, well, I own everything with the word best in it. Blah 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 blah. And I'm like, well, you don't have this one. And then he goes, you're nothing but a washed-up soccer mom. You're never going to be anything. You're over 40. You're blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no way. And I said, dude. I said it just like this. I'm like, dude, my kids don't even play soccer. And I hung up. And I registered that domain for like as long as I could, besteveryou.com. And just it buckled me down and got me more determined. But that's when I talk about naysayers and people who don't want you to succeed or do what you're really meant to do, and all those things, the inkling that you have that maybe somebody else isn't quite in tune with. It's really important to maybe even, I was talking about bubble wrap earlier, like bubble wrap yourself and stay who you are. I mean, like, can you imagine if we, I don't know, but if we took your son off the baseball field and put him commuting 4 hours to a desk job every day, and can you imagine what he would be like off the baseball field?
It means besides a drug addict and an alcoholic, because he couldn't handle it, he would just say, I've got to be numb to go to this job.
Yeah, and my it's funny. I bet this is really true with you, and if it's not, stop me. But I bet early on you kind of could see him loving baseball. I know with Cam, like, he started throwing a ball around with his left hand at about 18 months old. And people sometimes are just sort of wired the way they're wired, and that's who they are. We've got one of our other kids. He would just constantly look up in the sky and notice the stars and the weather and everything. He's a meteorologist. And so I think it's really important to pay attention to your natural gifts and talents, and for parents to pay attention to their kids' natural gifts and talents, because they present them.
Oh, it is so important that for parents to pay attention to their kids' talents, desires, or proclivities. Yeah. And then as we grow old, and again, we'll talk about it more, but you talk about reviewing your past, and when were you most gratified, and when did you find the most fulfillment in your life, and when were you happiest and most productive? And I just sort of speak or talk about I'm going to screw this whole quote up, but at least I'll get the gist over it. And that he said, when children are under kindergarten, they test them for genius, and only 1% of children do not show genius potential. That 99% show genius genius proclivities, and as they continue to get older, it just continues to drop. And I think it drops from so much from negative feedback, lack of encouragement, lack of clarity. You get into school and they don't teach you to be genius. They don't teach you to be creative. They don't teach you to think uniquely and personally. They teach you to follow rules and
Yep.
and have right answers on tests. I have a big problem
Yep.
with education, with the way education is run. I don't think it really develops the individual very well. And no wonder we live in a culture of people that are dissatisfied with what they're doing. They may like the money, but they are not doing what they really, really love to do. So what I'm curious about is, in your time of moving from your finance job to moving to personal development, what you came up with the best ever me and the best ever you. What was the driver to go that direction? Because you could have gone tons of directions. You could have gone to race car driver, but you didn't do that. This was something that really seemed to resonate with your very core. How did that come about?
Well, I've always been a writer, and I have a journalism degree.
Mm-hmm.
And I love people. And I thought, well, I'm going to start this out by featuring people. I'm going to gather people to the website by featuring others. So it wasn't about me. It was about you. You. Excuse me. And so I featured my best friend from kindergarten, Kathy Papera, who had a baby bib business. She was sewing baby bibs at her kitchen table for all of her friends having babies at the time. And she turned it into a mega business where her bibs were in stores everywhere. I was like, if she can do something like that from her kitchen table, I can do this from here. And there it went.
So you loved people. You're a journalist. You're a writer. That means you have. To me, I would assume that there is a large degree of curiosity in you. That you're always trying to find out the story, the backstory, the what's going on. So those are driving you.
But
still,
not negative. Never negative though.
Right, I get that.
I couldn't be an anchor, like a news anchor, because it was so negative.
Oh, especially today. I don't even watch the news, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
I don't. I don't. I try watching a middle of the road news, and I find out that it's pablum, that it may be middle of the road, but it has no content to it. So that gets me away from that. But I keep going back to this personal. How did you, after you've been interviewing these people and you've been highlighting people in your process, is there something that emerged that you said, there is something similar to all these people? There's a quality that is with all that is in these people that I'm highlighting that I don't find in the general population.
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
I think that what I kept seeing and what I'm drawn to a lot too is sort of a pain into purpose feel. I think it's really interesting how people can struggle with things and overcome it and achieve maybe even more than the general population can. And that, I think that viewpoint stemmed from Cameron, our baseball player, who was very, very ill in his first bunch of years of life and had to have a life-saving surgery at about the age of 3. It was really interesting to see him fight and win and fight and win some more and grow and fight and become that baseball player. And so of the four boys who all played baseball, to see the one who nearly died playing baseball at a college level intrigues me.
So what?
And And I think about people like that a lot. I think about all the things that people do and achieve and what they overcome to do it.
What is the difference, as you notice, between people who have that driver, I won't quit ability or natural tendency to those who just are ready to settle, that just don't want to fight the battle? Do you find a distinction? I mean, there's an obvious distinction, but do you find a character distinction, a driver distinction between those people?
I do, and I've called it for a really long time, and I may write another book about it, actually. I call it the Five Intangibles, and it's in the Change Guidebook, but I really believe the Five Intangibles from other people.
What can you tell me what those are?
Because offhand, it's funny. I've got to find it.
I know. I've written. I
memorized it.
I understand.
But yeah.
Or just give me a couple. It doesn't have to be all five.
Like perseverance, like we were just talking about perseverance, the leadership part. There's just certain. It's really what it is. Without rattling off all five of them, it's a certain. To me, it's a certain characteristic that you can't quite put your finger on, but when you're around that person, you're around somebody who just has a different, almost like vibration, or they carry themselves different. Or what I find more and more is they care about people in a different way. You can just feel that there's just a feeling of excellence when you're around them. So the way they carry themselves and conduct themselves, it's just different. And somebody might not have all five of the intangibles, but even having one of them sets you apart.
And if you know that, then you can depend on that as your go-to in difficult situations.
Yes, absolutely. And it's just kind of like it's like putting two baseball players with the same skill set, the same height, the same, just kind of the same, but one's a little bit better because they've got the intangibles.
It's funny. It's funny you mention that, because in the early days, as in his early days of playing and competing against college kids, there would be and scouting. You get scouting reports on all these players, and the top 10 players that get the scouting reports because of production, rarely, maybe your top one or two make it. But rarely do the top 10 make it. It starts happening in your guy that's 90th and 120th and 200th. And there is a quality that we have yet to be able to define and understand in scouting. And I think this is not just true in athletics. I think it's true in business. I think it's true in our general life. And we call the term makeup. It's the makeup of a person that is just different, and the ones that excel. It's like the Pete Rose player. I don't know if you remember Pete Rose, but Pete Rose was sort of almost an average talented baseball. He worked harder, and he believed it. No matter what, he believed he was going to be better than anybody else. No matter. Justin Pedroia was the same way. He was good, but he was not spectacular until he reached the pros, and he just has this makeup. And I think that has to do with your five intangibles, and that there is something inside this person. Now, can those intangibles, Elizabeth, here for our listeners, can those intangibles be learned, or are they innate?
That's the debate I'm having with myself right now. Can they be learned, or are they innate? And I think a little bit of it can be learned, but it's the innate part that sets you apart. I don't know, I'm having a debate with myself on this one, but I really think, again, I think some people are just wired a certain way, and some people can kind of learn it and be told to do that, or kind of do what they're supposed to do, and some people have a joy about doing it. I wish I could remember the guy. There was a CBS Sunday Morning report on the other day, and it was about a baseball player who stays after all the baseball games to sign every autograph and do all these things. And it was a story of him helping her through cancer. And I wish I could remember the guy's name right now. I'm trying not to clank on my keyboard while we're talking and Google, so I don't have things in front of me. But that there's just a certain way about people, like exactly what you're saying, and you know it when you're around it, and it's very hard to pinpoint and put your finger on and define it. But I think the Five Intangibles defines it pretty well in terms of what you're seeing. But the question is, and I'm going back and forth, is it learned or is it innate? And I don't know if I have a great answer for that.
And maybe the answer is yes. I think, yes, it is both.
Yep.
You know what I think plays a great role? I don't think it's necessarily, well, it may be the strongest role, but it's a very influential role. And that, I believe that has a lot to do with parents and with the security of parents and how parents encourage a child, allow the child to make mistakes, and when the child is successful, is appraise the child is not worried. The child wants to please the parent, but the child is not worried that their parents are going to be all pissed off and yelling at them. How come you didn't get that hit? How come you didn't how come you didn't get an A on that exam? That's what you're capable of. And they forget the kids are trying. Their goal is not to fail. Their goal is to do the best they can to succeed. And, and it's a parent's role to support that. And I'm not sure that's the American way of parenting children. At least not when I grew up. Maybe it is now, and I think we've gone too far the other direction where we don't keep score, and so nothing really matters.
There's a can of worms that just got really opened right there, but parents are definitely all over the place. But boy, just to keep on our baseball thing here, because it's what I know, I've seen some really interesting parents at baseball games, and as we coached or we've been on the receiving end of some really doozy voicemails. And I just want to make sure people know that they're like 6 to 9 years old, and the MLB is not their recruiting. I just don't know what to say. And they're really hard on their kids. I had we were coaching T-ball in California, and all the kids were like 4. I mean, I swear 4 or 5. They're playing with the grass, the butterflies, the bugs, doing anything but playing T-ball, and they were all sitting on the ground having a snack. And the opposing coach came up and down our line and went, "You all suck," like that.
Seriously, with kids that young?
No, really.
Oh, gosh. Gosh.
And we had a little girl on our team, too, and she started crying. I'm like, oh, man.
Oh. But, and that's certainly going to make her a great athlete, right? She's done. I mean, it's over. It's over. I don't want any part of this. I coached from T-ball until, I coached high school as well. I mean, I coached all the way through, but I never coached my son in high school because my son was going to make varsity as a freshman, and the coach and I decided it would be accused by fans as playing daddy ball, and that my son was only playing as a freshman because his dad was one of the coaches. So I resigned as a coach. But I had this.
So did we.
But I had this idea of, and we had teams. I'm telling you, our teams were stupid. Our teams. There was a time when our record was 67-3. That we were just we were the best team in California at the time, and the kids had strong discipline, but the kids also had love. They knew. You can't do this today. I could do things, 15, 20 years ago that you can't do today, that kids would get a kiss on the cheek, and I've even had like 17 and 18-year-olds look at me after they did a good game and say, "Where's my kiss, coach?" What's going on? But at the same time, I was a demon. I mean, there was a dark side. I wouldn't put up with any crap. And so I had both sides. But as a result, I don't know if we've ever said this on air.
Who was on your team?
I had 7 right now current 7 big leaguers that are in the big leagues that played baseball for me at 12 years old.
See?
I had names like Bryce Harper, Matt Chapman, Joe Musgrove, Michael Lorenzen. These kids all played for me at 12 years old.
That's so neat. Oh my gosh.
But let's get on. Let's move from this, and let's move. I really want to pursue your approach to personal development, because you are so ultra successful at it that I want to do that approach. And I think right now, Paul, we're going to make a shift change. So maybe it would be a good time to take a break, and then we come back. Let's talk about your approach to self and personal development. Okay? Hi there, you're listening to Charlie Hedges in the Next Chapter with Charlie, and I am so excited about our guest today, Elizabeth Hamilton-Guarino. And she manages this giant network called the Best Ever You Network that she is globally, impacting thousands of people in helping change, development, doing activities that are aligned with your core inner self. And I have a feeling, Elizabeth, that your brand new book, the Change Guidebook, which is available which is available on Amazon, and I will make sure that's all in the show notes. But I have a feeling, and tell me if this is correct. I have a feeling it's a compilation of all your learnings about personal growth and fulfillment, and that you have written, that I read, that you are devoted to reconnecting people with their heart and their actions with awareness and authenticity. Is that an accurate assessment of your objectives?
It sure is, yeah. To get people to move from their head in thinking, because they overthink everything, to our hearts, and really think from our heart. So heart-based thinking, the kind of thinking where you trust your heart, you trust your gut, you trust your instinct, and you follow through on that instead of ignoring it. The kind of thing where you're authentic, because I think the world needs more of you, not fake you. And we sometimes put on pretty good fronts and do what people want us to do, or think, or do what we think people want us to do, those types of things. Mm-hmm. And really what we need is more authentic you. And I really think that when you understand that you really go where you place your energy. And when you align those things, when you align your heart, your truth, and your energy, absolutely anything is possible. Anything. It would be like if you gave all 12 of those kids on your baseball team. Let's just assume they don't play soccer for a second. It would be like if you gave them a soccer ball instead of a baseball. It's not authentically who they are. They're baseball players. Maybe some of them were good soccer players, but well, they're athletes.
It would be like
if you gave them something else to do. Yeah.
They're athletes. They're good at everything, but their passion is for baseball. They may play. My son played soccer, basketball, football, lacrosse, and he excelled at every one of them. But his passion, give him a choice, and he's going to play baseball. That's all there is to it.
Yep. Same with. I found the 5 Intangibles, by the way. If you want me to rattle them off, I've got.
Yeah. Rattle them off, and we'll see. It's kind of back, but rattle them off, because I am very curious.
Okay. Yeah, and it's interesting because coaches around the country use this. I just didn't have it in front of me. So it's the 5 Intangibles. The first one is drive. It's belief in discovering the power of motivation, competition, growth, goals, will, and purpose. The second one is trust. belief in character, behavior, values, beliefs, choices, awareness, reliability, and integrity, all combining to allow others to place their trust in you and you in them. Adaptability, belief that anything is possible based on your ability to maneuver and your mindset being open, particularly to change and new ideas. This involves listening to suggestions and other people often, as well as trusting yourself and taking risks. Perseverance, belief in the incredible power of healing, adaptability, strength, growth, purpose, and forgiveness. And then the fifth one is leadership. Belief that you are always following, leading, and learning. Careful consideration to body language, character, perseverance, trust, drive, adaptability, wisdom, humor, connectedness, purpose, and community are present in leadership.
Elizabeth, those are freaking brilliant. Did you make those up? Did you research those? Where did you come up with those?
No, it was really interesting. It was just pen to paper one day. It was like, sometimes when I write things, it's almost like, this sounds really strange, but it's almost like somebody's talking to me as I'm writing.
It's your you know, we writers call it the muse. The muse is giving you insight.
But that I wrote in about a minute, maybe a minute and a half. It just was like just right on paper. Like, I stopped myself from what I was doing. I'm like, I got to go write this down. I just had an idea. And my husband looked at me and he's like, what are the 5 intangibles? I'm like, you'll see it in a minute. It was funny.
Oh, they're brilliant. They're brilliant. Now, what it? Oh boy, I'm kind of stumbling because I have 2 or 3 questions going on in my brain at the same time, and I'm trying to determine which one I want to ask first. How does the person who is feeling unfulfilled, is feeling they're on the wrong track, and let's just for the sake of argument say they're a moderately successful person in what they're doing, and yet they're saying, I can't see myself spending the rest of my life at this, and then putting their goals in retirement. And I have to tell you, retirement is just an extenuation of what you've done. You do not change your heart's desires and your intent with quitting a job. If you've been frugal and you say, well, I'm going to spend lots of money when I retire, you're not, because your habits are being frugal. And you will always do that, because we develop over decades and decades of these habits, and we think when we hit a certain age, then I can let all those go. You can't, because they become part of your human nature. They become part of who you are, so they must be addressed when you are younger and you're in the throes of all of this, don't you think?
I do. I think that I always say the word wired. We're sort of wired a certain way. Basically, we learn things along the way, but a lot of the time, you're not going to do a 180 on being frugal. It's generally who you are. Yeah, for sure. But I would tell people, though, one of the things about aging and retirement and so forth is we do change, and we are allowed to not get stuck doing what we've always done. The cool thing right there is you have some opportunity, and if you approach that opportunity with an open mind, it's an invitation to do new things. So you see people like, I'm going to go take that trip I've always wanted to take, and that you're going to take your frugal self with you. But
if you can get yourself to spend the money to take the trip.
Yeah, it might be a steeper trip, but you know what I mean. People do find new things. We're changing all the time, and sometimes those opportunities present themselves. But at any age, what I like to send people to do is to almost go to the very first part of the book, into number 1, which is assess. And I've created an assessment that you can always take. You can take it multiple times throughout the year. You can take it once a year, every year. You can take it whenever you want to. And there are certain benchmarks in our lives where it's a really good tool to pull out and say, where am I right now? And it's free. It goes with chapters 1 and 2 of the book. And it's at besteveryou.com/Change Guidebook. There's a free assessment.
Yeah, I saw that.
There. And it's also in the book, too. But sometimes people don't like to write in books. So anywhere in my book where there's a place to write in it, I've taken those pages out and put them on the website at that address for free download, so people can just have it for free.
People don't like to write in a book. You got to see my books.
Mine are written in.
There's so many writings and highlights, and if I like the book, and if the book has nothing in it, it didn't strike me. One of the things that you focus on is that let me go back to my notes. That says that somehow in here it said you need to be, that it's important to live the life that you want to live, is that it must be congruent with the way you are DNA'd, with the way you are created to be, which to me begs the question, how do you know, with all of the confusing data, all of the information from other people, all of the affirmations of what you're doing now, how do we get a hold of our truest, most innermost nature? How do you suggest we identify those things?
Well, I think it's like a lot of self-thought, but sometimes you need to talk that stuff out. And when there's confusing moments, or when there's things that you're thinking, well, I think I want to do that, but I'm afraid to be the chief cookie baker I've always thought I was intended to be, or people have fear. Really, what that is generally speaking, is there's fear. There's fear of failure. There's fear of the unknown. There's a lot of things, and so I really encourage people to understand that most of that growth, and you see these graphics sometimes, a lot of things rest outside that really super comfort zone, where there's not a lot happens in the comfort zone. You've got to go outside of it to grow, and that is not a unique statement. But what is a unique statement is working with somebody, or talking with family or people around you about what it is exactly that you dream about doing, what your goals are, what you're actually thinking. The things that are bottled up in you that have fear on as the cap, kind of thing. So I just think it's really important to vocalize what's going on in your mind and brain that you really, really, really want to do. And if you're not doing it, to talk to somebody to align from that drift. It's just really important. I just don't know of anybody who goes to the end of their life and says, well, I really wish I had worked more. I really wish I had sat in that chair in that office for 12 hours more every day. I think people are. We do that because we have to pay bills and survive and do all these things. And some people really, really love that, and they're great at it and all that stuff. But some people, they're doing that because they're following what everybody else is doing, or following what they think they're supposed to be doing. Or I come across a lot of people who, my husband's an example, who are sometimes doing what their parents told them to do.
Absolutely. It reminds me that this last year is the first year I haven't done it in several years, but I will probably in November of this year. My wife and I take one assessment in December, and then I take an assessment in November, where I will spend 2 nights, and sometimes 3 nights and 2 days, and many times 2 nights and 1 day. And the ideal is wherever I go, I have to wake up and go to sleep in this place. And in this time, I take flip charts, and I take a couple of inspirational books, and I will write not just my life, my annual plan, but I will write my plan for the next several years, and it's very it's very values oriented. It's not, okay, I'm going to make X amount of money, or I'm going to accomplish this job. This is the value that I'm going to get from, I have what I call my noble aims, and I have 5 noble aims. And what will I get out of my noble aims if I am pursuing and investing time in my noble aims? And and I write, since I'm a writer, so I will write those down. And they end up making checklists that are but it's not your just check off the checklist. I have I divided into, and I've had a podcast all on this, I divided into 4 categories: passion, purpose, people, and praise, because we are very faith-oriented people. And I say, what do I need to do on a regular basis to keep my passion up? What do I need to do on a regular basis that I am accomplishing things that I am proud of, that I feel resonate with my noble aims, and what is my core activities? I focus on relationships. Who do I need to be in relationship that develops me and nurtures me, replenishing relationships rather than what is called the VDP, the very draining people in your life. You need to get rid of the VDPs as much as you can. And then praise. What can I do to nurture my I have a very medieval mystical approach to Christianity, and what it is that do I do to enhance my unity with the divine, and that and then you know what I do, Elizabeth, is that I don't look at those daily. I look at them once a month, and I just give myself a check, plus or minus. And anything that gets a plus or a check, I'm okay with. If it gets a minus, I have 2 options, Elizabeth. I have one, I need to make improvements here that's going to help me get to where I want to be. Or there's, by chance, the time I wrote this, I'm in a different state of mind now, and it's not a good goal, and I will just eliminate it. And I will have no problem. And that is, you know, it's amazing what that has done for my life. It's given me clarity without having this anal. See, I'm not anal about my checklist and about my to-do list. I'm sort of a right brain, big picture person, but this fits the right brain, big picture person, rather than the person that has to, know every day exactly what they want to do. But it is taking time to evaluate my inner core and say, am I living according to my inner core? Does that sound like according to something you might endorse?
It does, actually. Best Ever You was founded on 6 principles: core, art, heart, humanity, spirit, sport, and so forth. And so it fits it. There's categories in your life of doing things and so forth. When people come my way, I do something. It's similar. It's different. We do that. We do the assessment type thing, and then we go off into vision statement mode pretty quickly. I'm a really big fan of vision statements, because I don't think that I really don't think that if you can't see it for yourself, you're going to ever really achieve it. That's again. But we do some. I work with clients to do some pretty clever vision statements. I have almost 100% success rate with them too. I keep track because I'm curious. We'll say, what are a couple things you want to do, and I will write the vision statement for the client. Now, in the Change Guidebook, I teach people kind of how to write them for themselves and give a couple examples. But sometimes your brain's pretty trained, and you're good at keeping track of yourself and making yourself do those things and so forth. And some people really aren't. When I get a hold of people, we really try and reprogram sort of the conscious and subconscious programming going on, so that you can kind of clear your mind to think about new possibilities. And we'll anchor people in a power moment. We'll do all sorts of of clever things to get your brain firing in the right direction to support what you're thinking that you want to do, but your brain firing in the direction all the time to support the actions needed.
I love it.
So, if that makes any sense, I hope I'm trying to make sense of that. But
well,
what I'm trying, I do a lot of vision statements with people, and it depends. I do one about every 6 months for myself.
Yes, you know what it sounds to me like. You have this beautiful integration. And I think most of my listeners kind of understand the difference between left and right brain thinking.
Yeah.
Is that it seems to me you have this fabulous integration of right and left brains. And that the vision statement is a very right-brained activity. It's very creative. It's very out there. It's going with your gut. It's going with, where your passions are. And the left brain, you say, once I establish this, now let me put some tangible goals around it that can help me succeed with my more intangibles. Does that resonate with you at all?
It does, to mostly.
Mostly.
But what I have
like
to
that.
constantly do, like, for example, like if you were in my class right now, I'd say, okay, Charlie, we're going to close, and it's awkward. I'm going to say, we're going to close your eyes, and we're going to stop thinking. And we're going to see what comes up. I want you to kind of move from your head to your heart.
Right.
And just create that pause and quiet and so forth. And then people talk a little more. I'm like, shh, kind of thing. And just sort of stop talking and listen for a little bit, and hear because when your heart talks to you, you're going to hear it. You hear it loud and clear. You just have to pause to hear it.
Do you encourage writing?
I do. I encourage writing, drawing, but I really encourage what is so awkward for most people to do, and that's to stop, pause, and create pause, and create space to hear yourself, and go with that pause until you stop hearing yourself and can hear quiet. That's really hard for people to do.
We are so close in our philosophy / we've not talked theology, but our theology. This is what you are talking about is what the late medieval Christian mystics talked about. That is, they had church laws they had to follow, of which they didn't necessarily abandon them, but they became second place to this mystical, what is this union they want with this divine being that creates us so much more to be heart beings than head beings. And
yep, I really believe that.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to ask you one. Go ahead. I want you to finish, and then I have one final question.
No, I think that the pause is so important. Just that super quiet pause is so just powerful, and it's hard to get people to do that. It really is. Go.
You're probably not familiar with my very, very good friend Terry Hershey, who has a book, The Power of Pause.
I am very familiar with that book, actually.
Are you really? You're very familiar with Terry's book? Yeah, he's one of my closest friends, and we chat about this stuff all the time. So let me end with this, and it is sort of a simple yet very difficult question. Do you have any must-know suggestions for someone trying to change personally or professionally? What are the key thoughts, if we were to boil this down into 1, 2, or 3 key thoughts? Do you have anything that just jumps out for you?
I do, actually. I think we hear a lot about gratitude. And I'm going to bring it up because I think it's fuels a lot of things. How you look at things and approach things is really important. Your attitude, And if it's not gratitude, if it's not rooted in gratitude, I don't know where it is a lot in people. And so I really work with clients to find, foster, and ground in gratitude. And I don't mean anybody can write a list of 25 things today they're grateful for, and I'm so grateful for you, and this and that. I'm not poo-pooing that at all. It's great. And it's a form of gratitude. But I'm saying doing gratitude so much that it's like second nature or almost like autopilot. So that when you walk outside and you see your tires flat, you go, well, at least I have a car.
Gratitude is deeply tied with your core intentions, is it not? If you
think so.
You're grateful because your core intentions are being addressed. I love gratitude in that, I'm not a fan of gratitude lists because I think they are, I'm grateful that I have food. I'm grateful for my wife. Well, yeah, and like you, I don't want to poo-poo that, but I think there is a much deeper and much profound use of the concept of gratitude, and that's what, to me, you're pointing to. What else do you say besides gratitude?
Because, and if you think about that, I'm a person who's nearly lost my life a couple times. I've been resuscitated twice from food allergic reactions.
Oh my goodness!
Because I have 4 life-threatening food allergies on board that I live with every day. I really am grateful for breath. I mean, I really do seriously wake up every day and go, okay, I'm breathing. Let the day unfold. And I don't think people do that. I don't think people create that pause to just understand that, they're here and cool things are going to happen.
I think that is, I keep sidetracking us, but I think that is very true in prayer. People pray for things, get answer for prayer, and then fail to give gratitude. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Look at what just happened. Look at the results of this. Do you have anything else that you would like to add before we end?
Well, I think I'm going to go on forgiveness because forgiveness is one where it's not about oh, I forgive you. Kind of like we were saying about the gratitude. It's not that. It's a practice. I say, I forgive blank and put a name there. Every time I do this with my clients, they go, I forgive Paul because Paul blah, 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 blah. They go on, and I'm like, okay, got it. Now say it again. I forgive, and just Paul. I forgive Paul. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it goes on and on. There's always a qualifier. And I try to get people to just say the sentence over and over and over again until they hear just that one sentence. I forgive Paul.
Beautiful.
Not with the qualifier, not with anything else, just dun, dun, dun.
Beautiful. Boy, what a mature approach.
Yeah, then when you do that, and you don't ever tell Paul that you forgave Paul, you just, I forgive Paul, and you mean it. But it takes a lot to get people there, because there's always a list of what Paul did that you need to forgive him for. And people rattle it off in coaching all the time. You see it. I do that exercise with almost everybody, and I just sort of sit back and listen to the answers. And it's really interesting. It's like a universal thing, that qualifier.
And you know what is essential too, Elizabeth? And I'm confident you're aware of this. I don't know if it begins with this or it's a part of this, but until we can forgive ourselves, we truly have a difficult time forgiving other people because we hold so many grudges against ourselves that we take them out on other people. And so forgiveness is not just forgiving Paul, is forgiving me for my shortcomings, but I am human. I am a broken person, and I need to be able to forgive that and move on from that.
Yeah, give yourself a giant hug. It's not all, everybody, just definitely forgive yourself. The Change Guidebook kind of goes into that, but forgiveness, healing, and acceptance kind of all live together.
That's beautiful, and I went in with that. But what comes together? Give me the three again, because I love them.
Forgiveness, healing, and acceptance.
Forgiveness, healing, and acceptance. What would this planet look like if we lived according to those principles?
Different.
It is so fun to talk to somebody who is so experienced and so successful, and what makes me feel good is that I can track with you, and that I feel so much of the same way. I feel very honored that I'm the same. That I agree with so much of what you're saying, and at the same time, I've learned so much from you. You have been an amazing guest, Elizabeth.
Thank you, because I learned a lot from you too, and I enjoy speaking with you, and I hope that you'll come on my radio show and we'll have a chat.
I shall. I have no idea what you're going to do to me, but I shall.
We'll have fun.
So Elizabeth Hamilton-Guarino, thank you so much for spending time with me. You are such a grand, fully delightful, and informative person. You really are the best. I in just our short time together, I appreciate you immensely.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to let you know something. My father passed away in October of 2018, and it is so, you have almost his same tone and voice. It is so interesting to me. And you're an exceptional complimenter, because I feel like my complimenter has been gone for a while. And I just want to thank you for just this. It was so wonderful to be with you today, or tonight. I guess we're in tonight mode, but just really fun to talk to you. You're really wise, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
Well, kind words go a long way, and those kind of words went a long way. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. We will definitely do sometime in the next year or so. We'll do a part 2. I would love to do your show, and I'm rarely a guest, and so that will be an interesting process to be led through a conversation. And so I would love to do it with you. I think you are brilliant. You could do that.
Perfect. It'll be a lot of fun.
Okay, everybody, that's all for today, and it has been, as always, such a treasure serving you with our show, and we are so appreciative of our dedicated listeners. And now this is Charlie Hedges signing off. Bye for now.